Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Sunday's Coming podcast. I'm here with Kaleb.
Hello.
And my friend Jeremiah.
Hey, guys.
Dude,
Welcome.
I'm stoked to have you here. I was telling Kaleb briefly earlier today when we were talking about the episode, the first time that I met you it would have been like 2013.
Yeah.
2012.
Festival,
Yep. At a festival. I was going to and attending Greenville University, and your band showed up, and I happened to be the front of house guy, and, got the rider and all the stuff. I'm like, okay, well, we'll see. And your guys' bus pulled up at, 7 in the morning or something like that.
What was on the rider?
I don't
How
remember.
bougie were they?
Not very bougie.
No?
Not at all.
No?
Yeah, I feel
Water.
like
Could we get water?
I feel like I remember that about you guys being like, because we had artists come through, and I was like, man, I really hope that this is like an easy morning right now. And it was very, very easy. And I remember that.
Yeah.
And so, this is probably 8 years before, we ended up running into each other again.
Yep.
As you were interviewing at a church that I was on staff at. And
I 10/10 recommend this guy because he's a great band to work with.
yes, dude. Well,
Very
I
chill.
remember
No drama.
yes.
No drama.
I remember getting I don't know if somebody sent like a resume or I saw your name on a piece of paper or email, and I was like, I think I met that guy before.
Yeah.
And so now here we are. And so coming full circle, super cool to have you in here and hanging and talking with us too.
Yeah, man. I want to hear more about your festival days and your metal days and like
Oh,
all that
yeah.
stuff, 'cause,
Boy.
Yeah.
So it was really funny. I also this morning texted a friend of mine who big hardcore music kid, and he remembered seeing you guys.
Oh, really?
Brutal Fight.
No way.
And I'm gonna read what he said.
Okay.
He said, I texted him, I was like, do you remember this band? He's like, yes, dude, Brutal Fight. And he goes, the first hardcore band on Face Down I saw back in 2005, so sick live.
Yeah.
And he's like, they were so sick. And I was like, that's so awesome.
2005. Wow.
2005.
Oh, boy.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
So
Before I was a dad.
you've been around the block, man.
Yeah.
And hardcore kids never die. Emo never dies.
right.
Yeah.
That's why I got that chest tattoo. It's great, dude. Just like,
Yeah.
it's awesome, man. So
Yeah.
small world.
It's so fun to hear about that. That's cool.
Yeah, dude. Well, why don't we start there?
Yeah.
And, kind of hear a little bit about like who you are and how you got to what you're doing now.
Sure.
So yeah, feel free to start wherever you think is helpful.
Yeah. Well, I would say, to put my hardcore days into context, I still feel like a hardcore kid at heart, to be honest. It's really most of the time I'm listening to music. It's that there's been a revival of sorts.
Oh, totally.
I couldn't imagine even back when we were touring, how far hardcore and metal music would go. And now bands are selling out stadiums. It's crazy.
That's so wild.
I wish that was happening when I was touring.
It wasn't for me either. It really happened to be some weird basement clubs and stuff like that.
Which is that has its own charm to it.
Totally.
But yeah, so I came to the Lord when I was 14. I was a hardcore kid, straight edge kid, just really was dedicated to the local scene. I grew up predominantly in the Portland, Oregon area. And there's a pretty good hardcore scene out there. But just going to shows every weekend and, my life at home, had a decent home life, but my whole freshman year, I struggled with extreme anxiety and a bunch of other stuff. And it wasn't until I picked up a Bible, I felt like something in my heart said, read the Bible. And so we had literally a giant King James Bible.
Oh yeah,
that
family Bible.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. The genealogies and all that stuff. You write in the name and pass it on to the next generation. And it was in our junk closet, and I locked myself in the room for about 3 weeks because, at that point in my life, I was I'd gotten so bad I was suicidal, and so a voice in my heart, which I know now is the Holy Spirit, was like, read the Bible. So I went in my room, locked myself in my room, and read the Gospels in 3 weeks. and barely understood any of it. But what I did take from it was two things. Mainly, Jesus was nothing like I thought he was. And secondly, he loved people like me. And so I got radically saved in my bedroom just reading the Bible.
That's awesome.
And after about a month and a half, I was like, well, I guess I go to church now. So started going to the church, and kind of through that journey, going into my sophomore year, I met this kid, a really good buddy of mine. His name's Derek. And he saw me wearing like a Zayo shirt. And he was like, you listen to Zayo? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, they're coming, next week. And I was like, yeah, I know. And he was like, I play in this band. I play bass. And I was like, well, I'm a drummer. And so we started a band.
That's awesome.
And we started playing, local Grange halls. We'd rent them out.
Really?
And $5, remember $5 at the door?
Oh, yeah.
And homemade flyers and stuff, handbills.
Yep.
And so we just started booking our own shows, and it was a really do-it-yourself, situation back then. There's pre-social media, any of that kind of stuff. And we just grinded it out, man. And the next thing we know, we're touring the West Coast, and then touring the country, and then touring the world, which was really crazy.
That is crazy.
That kind of brought me up into, I was 25 years old, and my wife, Kara, was pregnant with her first. And I knew that I wasn't going to make a living doing hardcore music.
There's not a lot of money and like a hole in the wall show hardcore music? Or
totally.
What?
So, so at that point, I was like, I should start another band, and I started a worship band, something that was also
because there is a lot of money in worship music.
That was my my logic.
That's what I'm gathering from this conversation.
I'm not making enough money. I need to start
a worship band.
I
mean, kind of.
No. So what was going on in that time in my life? So I became like a self-ordained youth pastor at the age of 18.
Okay.
Because I was just so passionate about revival and leading people to Jesus. And so I started a youth group in my girlfriend, now wife's parents' basement. They were stupid enough to let us do it.
That's awesome.
And so I was always a youth pastor, and eventually I became a youth pastor at a church called the Vineyard. And I was mainly a youth and young adult pastor. And then they just let me tour all the time. So it was like,
awesome.
As long as I had leaders in place, which I did, they'd let me go on tour. So it wasn't like, we weren't touring like 6-7 months out of the year. We're like more like a month, 2 months out of the year we'd be on tour. But so I was also very passionate about worship music.
Yeah.
That was something that I felt, some of the similarities I felt in hardcore music. What drew me to hardcore music was just raw passion for something, a message. Even before I knew Jesus, it was, whatever it was straight edge or politics or whatever. Yeah. And when I came to know Jesus and started finding some of these hardcore bands like Living Sacrifice and Zayo and Focal Point and some of these old school Tooth and Nail bands and Face Down bands, what drew me to it was just the passion. And I remember walking into kind of one of the first times I walked in, there's this church in Portland, Oregon called The Bridge. And it was just raw worship. And I just got wrecked by the presence of the Lord. And I just knew, I was like, man, this is what I want my life to be given to. And I didn't think that in a career sense. I felt that in a very real, I want people to fall in love with Jesus the way that he's captured my heart. I want him to capture their hearts. And whether that's hardcore music or worship music, I was a musician. I knew that. I wanted to give my best to that end. So that was kind of the hardcore.
That's awesome, man.
Kind of the hardcore days.
That's so fun though. So then when you started the Neverclaim, the second band, you guys, like, that's when I met you, for the first time. And I mean, you were really traveling and touring all over at that point. Were you married at that point to Kara?
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Sounds like a challenging, to be gone and, all of that stuff while you're, early in marriage and all of that stuff, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Kara, the fortunate thing I had with Kara was, so I fell in love with the Lord. 6 months later, I fell in love with Kara, and we're 15-year-olds in love. That's and awesome. I was also in bands. So she was with me the whole way.
Got it.
Through Brutal Fight. I remember telling her, I feel like God's calling me to start a worship band. And she went out and bought me a guitar because I was a drummer. I was the drummer in Brutal Fight.
A worship leader's got to play a guitar.
Yeah, man.
That's right.
That's right.
You got to play that acoustic.
Go, babe.
Yeah.
And so she was with us through that too. And, I think she was built, the way I kind of describe wives of touring husbands or any sort of marriage dynamic that involves touring, it's kind of like a military family.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you gotta know, the family systems that you need to put in place in order to keep things running and to stay healthy. For us, we really felt like it was a true call from the Lord for a season. And so, yes, it was definitely tough. I mean, at that point, I'm touring 6-7 months out of the year.
That's a lot.
We had relocated to Nashville because you know how it works. Everything starts and ends in Nashville.
Yep.
So we were doing that for a season.
Yeah.
And it definitely made for some complicated times,
For sure, dude. So when was the transition from you at the Vineyard to doing that? Or were you still on staff and doing that stuff before you guys moved?
So when I was 29 years old, I felt like the Lord was asking us to kind of put everything into the Neverclaim. And so I put in like a year-long resignation at my church. And I was like, hey, I'm going to be a pastor here for the next year to really set them up well, or at least try to. Mm-hmm. And during that time, we ramped up touring. And then we ended up getting on some pretty big tours with like Third Day and other bigger bands. We kind of became the local, go-to opener band. And it was through that we ended up ultimately signing to our record label, was through touring with some of the bigger bands, and they introduced us to their labels and stuff. But yeah, so right around 30 years old, I was still full-time on staff at the Vineyard as a youth and young adult pastor. But I was also doing a lot of work nationally for the Vineyard movement, with primarily youth and young adults. But I was also then beginning to like write songs and like produce albums for the Vineyard as well. They have their own kind of worship arm as well. Yeah. So I was doing a lot of that. So it was kind of like a bunch of different things going on at the same time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you got like a local church experience, and then you have sort of this like national through touring, almost like Christianity as an industry type experience. Like what I don't know, what were the dichotomies or tensions that you experienced between like, I'm on a label, I'm on a tour, this is my job and my business, and then like local church ministry, and I don't know, what just things that stood out to you in that season?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say that dichotomy actually is what ended my career as a
say more about that. That's good.
As a I guess involved in the Christian music industry. So right when we got signed, and this was probably really bad timing from God never has bad timing, but I'll kind of make a joke. Like I felt like it was bad timing because right as we're moving into Nashville, I felt like I heard the Lord speak to me and say, hey, Jeremiah, if you give your best to the local church, I'll take care of everything else. And I've always been a big visionary, and revival has been a massive just driver in my life, like revival actuality, not revival hype. And I can go into that later, what I think that looks like. But so we start touring, and in my mind, I'm like, this is a massive platform. I was never in it for the platform. Yeah. But it was an opportunity to spread a message of the kingdom of God and to generate hopefully on a wide level a message of turn your hearts back to Jesus, and in a very real and simple way. And the message was very simple for us. Everywhere we toured, like we prayed for people after every show. Yeah. So regardless if we're playing at a small church or a stadium tour, at the end of every show, I'd say, hey, come to our merch area and I want to pray for you.
That's awesome.
Because I did not want to be, like, come meet us and we'll sign autographs.
Totally.
We signed autographs, but that was like a means to a greater end, which was to pray for people and to hear stories. And we saw so many miracles and so many people like come to faith in Jesus through that process. It was a lot of work too, and you'd always leave because you'd just be exhausted. Because you'd be standing out there for like 2 hours just praying for people and stuff like that. But what I began to notice in my experience in the Christian music industry was it was bent to entertain Christians, not necessarily to inspire revival. Yeah. And or at least I should say this, the primary goal wasn't to inspire revival. It was to in my experience, what I felt. So I want to speak very carefully here because I know this isn't everyone's experience. But my experience, it felt like it was built to entertain Christians.
Yeah.
And that didn't sit well with me. And I remember after 3 years of going on tour and having some decent success, I was actually having a lot of success as a songwriter too, off the side with like other artists as well. But just being a part of that industry and being a part of Nashville, the Nashville kind of like vibe, I wanted to see revival actuality, which I believe can only be based in a culture of family and friendship. But what you feel like in Nashville is if you're friends with somebody, there's an agenda. Like, hey man, let's go hang out at coffee. And what you're really trying to say is like, hey, who do you know
that can help me?
That can help me get to the next level.
Yeah.
And that didn't sit right with me either. And which is why we really were intentional about being involved in a small church. I mean, we plugged in at a Vineyard Church in Franklin, Tennessee for a season. But I remember the last tour we're on as a band, American tour. We did some international tours and stuff after this, but we're on tour with some really good friends of ours in a different CCM band. And we're playing, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, the only reason I'm here right now for these people, like the only reason they think I'm here is to entertain them because they just wanted to hear our hits. Yeah. Like they weren't interested in anything else. Yeah. And that really didn't sit well with me. And it was that day that I was like, I'm done.
It's so crazy, man.
Like, I don't care what I have to do. Yeah. And we ended up moving from Nashville. It was really like an offering to the Lord because we kind of hit this like crossroads, and I was having a lot of success with songwriting and the band was doing okay, but that was like kind of like, well, I could always just become a producer, songwriter. I was really good friends with a lot of, people, influential people in that scene, and especially in the worship area, in the worship world. And I just felt like the Lord said, just surrender it all. And so I did, and we moved to Boise, Idaho to take a part-time position as a young adult pastor at a Vineyard Church.
That's crazy, man.
And it was the dumbest decision we've ever made.
That's amazing, dude.
But the Lord was in it, so it wasn't that dumb, I guess. It was really hard.
Wow.
But, yeah.
It's, as you were talking about, that even just CCM music and that industry, even that era of, call it, early 2000s, and even into, 2010, I feel like there was a lot of artists that would come out and then call themselves Christians almost to gain a new population of people that will start listening to their music.
Yeah, sure.
And I would say, I used to go to tons of different shows like that from, quote unquote Christian artists, and there would be nothing that was said or spoken or, called out during any of the shows. And that wasn't the case for every artist, but it was a large majority of them. Yeah. Where they just used, the Christian label or something like that to further the, listener genre of people that would then listen to their music because they would call themselves Christians. So I think it's awesome that you guys did that, and use that in a different way than I think what a lot of different artists were doing at the time.
Yeah, I think I honestly went into that season. I'm the ultimate optimist. So
yeah, you are an optimist. Yeah,
like seeing everything through rose-colored glasses, and in my mind, I was like, I'd had friends who had been involved in the Christian music industry, and they came out on the other side of it bitter. Of kind of their experience, and I had made a decision that okay, well, I'm not gonna come out of this bitter, but I honestly had a vision to like, with whatever influence I have, I want to change this. I want to change the culture, and there's lots of different parts of the culture that I wanted to change, but the main one was that I wanted Christian artists to truly burn for Jesus. And as we'd go, I had to be really intentional about like having accountability and like plugged in to, having different mentorship and stuff like that. And what I saw was there's a real disconnect for a lot of artists. Some of them are very intentional, and some of them, like some of the most godly people you meet are some of these bands in the CCM world. But then there were a lot of people who just, because they weren't as intentional, they got eaten alive, and their marriages fell apart, and there's too many to count. Yeah. So, for me, I think coming out of that, what I gained from that was like, hey man, this is such a massive, there's such a massive wave that I think is unchangeable, barring like a complete move of God, like a revolution. And what that wave is using the Christian message to gain profit. And that's what it is. Like I've sat in meetings, and it was like, I've had these conversations with people involved in high levels, and where it's like, hey, I remember this one time we sat in a room, and I was having a conversation with a CEO of a record label, and they were, hey, like, we'd love to like have you guys be a part of what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, like, I think what we're really looking for is we're really looking for not just partnerships, but friendships, because anything worthwhile built in the kingdom of God is built on friendship. And he straight up looked at me and said like, well, I'm not going to be your friend.
Okay. Wow.
He's like, let's be real. Like our main priority is to get you guys on the radio.
Yeah.
And it's not friendship. And I was like, okay, I'm glad that we're clarifying this from the beginning. And so obviously I was like, no, thanks.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff like that. And I'm not trying to paint all of CCM world like that. Because there's some really beautiful people, great-hearted people in that industry. But unfortunately, there's a lot of that other side too.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, you see the same dynamic in churches where maybe the outcome is different. It's not profit in the same way, but sometimes it kind of is. Sometimes it's buildings or attendance or whatever, and sort of your motivations or the lenses you're looking at things through. It's not like you're saying friendship, relationship, building a community of faith that's going after Jesus. It's these other things that look good and puff up an ego. And, I think,
Oh yeah. And I've experienced both, you know, I mean, I think that's the story of life though, isn't it? And it doesn't matter what framework you're working from, what context you're in. The age-old story is that we're full of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
and the message of Jesus is death to self. And you'll unfortunately meet some people in Christian streams, whether that be in church leadership or a record label or a missions organization, or it doesn't matter, where, there is vain conceit. There's selfish ambition and vain conceit, like Paul talks about in Scripture, to escape those things. And I think the only way out of it, though, in my humble opinion, is to be within it. So there are some really amazing people in the CCM world that they're in it and they see themselves as hopefully influencers to help change a culture.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in church right now. Like I have so many reasons in my church experience of the 25 plus years of being involved in the church to easily go like, I'm just done.
Yeah.
Except for this one thing, God says no, like you're not done.
Yeah.
Like you're still called to my bride, the church. And I have two choices. I can either be inside of the church and all of its, flaws and try my best, also recognizing that I'm also flawed and I don't have all the answers either.
Yeah.
But I can humbly try to lead people towards an actual Jesus like community. Or I can stand outside and throw rocks. And I refuse to do that because I don't think it's helpful. And I don't think the Lord would be pleased with me in that.
Yeah.
So
I love that, metaphor of standing out and throwing rocks in. And it's very easy for many people who, whether they're not on staff at a church or have been previously, to look at that and throw stones at the things that are going well or the things that are not going well, and whether that's moral failures that happen all the time in churches. But ultimately, just like you said, like, man, we are flawed. I'm flawed. You're flawed. Our senior leaders are flawed. And knowing that, walking in and going, hey, man, we're trying to do here is push the message of the gospel out and do that in the best way we possibly can. But yeah, that's
it's not for the faint of heart.
No,
you
it's
know
not.
what I mean?
It's
And
not.
It's a humbling process, but I think that is the journey of the church.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think, unfortunately, there's aspirations to find the utopian reality.
Yeah.
And the utopian community and culture. And it's not true. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And it won't exist until the age to come, I believe. Are there healthier churches than other? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that utopian place that everyone's looking for with the perfect worship and the perfect message and the perfect small
What does that even mean
groups
though? Like what is perfect? Like what does that even mean when we
I
say
don't
that?
know.
Like it's perfect is like a almost useless word in our
100%.
context. Like what does that even mean
Yeah.
to anyway?
Yeah, no, but there is sometimes this expectation, and what I discover more and more every year is the closest comparison I have to my church experience, and my call to it is it's like my marriage. Is my marriage 100% on fire all the time? No,
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's is.
Yeah.
Am I madly in love with my wife? Should I be growing ever deeper, more in love with her? Yes, and I am. I'm more in love with her than I've ever been. We've been married for 22 years. But man, have we had some blowout fights?
Yeah.
Man, have we had some seasons where it's like, do I trust you as much as I used to? And then you have to figure it out. And hopefully through help or therapy or whatever it is, by the grace of God, you move on stronger to the next day. But at no point in my marriage did I ever think to myself like, you know what? Like I thought that this was going to be like utopian.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah.
I give up on marriage. Like
Yeah.
no, like that's not. And so I compare that to my experience in the church. There's so many seasons of just bliss and a depth of God's grace and wonder and the beauty of friendship and community. But then there's also been seasons of like misunderstanding and deep woundedness and deep dysfunction.
Yeah.
And I'm not advocating for, being okay with dysfunctional leaders or cultures. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that we have to get to a place to where we actually recognize that the quote unquote grind of the church experience, actually God is trying to do something in us. And a lot of times, especially as leaders, I know for myself, I want to show up to change things. And God is actually wanting to change me through the process. It's kind of like, the whole missionary thing, like I went to change them and I ended up getting changed.
Yes.
It's easier to say that like when you're gone for 2 weeks, but when you're grinding it out for years and years, it's like, you have to begin to realize I'm actually getting changed through this process and God wants me to be changed in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have said many times on this podcast too, like my best and worst seasons in my life and career were in ministry.
Yeah.
The most fruitful and wonderful seasons of community, and all of those things happened in ministry, and some of the hardest as well that led to that. And I like comparing that to a marriage because there's a lot of similarities to that. And I don't know if I've done that metaphor in that way before, and I like that a lot.
Well, let's pick back up at your part-time job in Idaho.
Yeah.
Just keep
for
going with the
sure.
story.
So what happened?
How did that go?
Yeah, so I was on staff at a vineyard church out there, beautiful vineyard Boise. Shout out to my buddies out there. But loved the church. What we weren't expecting was my wife and I, Kara, were going to be going through a season of extreme health issues. So my wife started having just weird symptoms and stuff like that. And then one day I wake up and it felt like I hit like a brick wall. And what happened was I was experiencing pretty much the most extreme form of vertigo you could have, but it didn't stop for 6 months.
Oh my gosh.
So just my life was spinning literally, and I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't drive.
Wow.
I just sat there in my bed and, watched Nacho Libre like 100 times
Dude.
because it was the only movie I could watch
Nacho?
and laugh. Yeah. And then my wife at the same time was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called Hashimoto, which is super common.
Yeah.
But back then it wasn't as a well-known thing. And, but her whole career was in the fitness industry, and basically what happened because of Hashimoto, she couldn't work out anymore. So she had to give up her career. I couldn't even stand on stage and sing for months and months and months. And the church that I was at kind of went through a season where they were having some shifting thing. And so they decided to kind of pull back the budget for the young adult program there. So that meant I was out of a job there. I was at the same time I was consulting for a nonprofit, and they had a big shift change up. And so I lost and this all happened within 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm like, I've been dizzy for months. I lose all my income in like 2 weeks. My wife's sick. They think that she might have like MS. They're like throwing out things like this. It's very scary. My poor kids.
Yeah, no
Bless
kidding,
their
man.
hearts. And there's one point that both my wife and I were in bed for like 2 weeks. And our oldest daughter, Emberlyn, she's 19 now, but back then I think she was like 12 or 11. And she was just holding down the fort. And man, the Lord really met us in that. To make a long story short, I initially we were going to Boise. I felt like to relaunch a ministry that I had started in my 20s that was based around capturing the hearts of youth and young adults. And it ended up not working out that way. So the real reason I'd say we went up there was a real pruning season. And never in our wildest dreams would we had ever considered moving to the Midwest. Like, we had toured so much of the Midwest. I remember one time we're on tour here in Chicago during the winter, and I looked at my guys, and I'm like, who in their right mind would want to live here? I literally said that.
Yep.
So we're at the tail end of this health journey, and I'm starting to feel better. I got found relief and healing through chiropractic care. Shout out to that. It literally saved me.
It's crazy.
And then my wife started getting medicated, and we started, finding health again. And then we're at a place where we didn't have jobs or money. And we're like, what do we do?
Yeah.
And out of the blue, I get this text from a pastor at the chapel who was at the time in Thailand with another friend of mine who's a pastor. And he looks at my friend, Corey.
Oh yeah, how could I forget?
Yeah, I love Corey.
Yeah.
He was in Thailand with a friend of mine, and he was like, hey, what's Jeremiah up to?
Yeah.
Because Corey was a vineyard pastor, and I had some influence in the vineyard worship world. And so he's like, what's Jeremiah up to? And my friend was like, he's actually like looking for a job.
Oh my gosh.
So I get this email or text message rather, and that's kind of what started my journey towards Chicagoland.
That's so crazy,
the chapel,
man.
which is where I'm at right now.
Going to the place that has the forever winters and all
A place that has distinct seasons.
That's
a
right.
very nice way to
true.
say it.
I
Yes.
discovered that.
Distinct
I did
seasons,
discover
and
that.
now you love it.
Yeah,
Maybe? I
really
don't know.
no, seriously.
Okay, good.
We've grown to really love the Midwest,
Yeah.
and my wife and I laugh all the time. We're like, I can't believe, because our youngest, or not our youngest now, we have a 2-year-old adopted toddler, but our 10-year-old son now, when we first moved here, is 3. His name is Valor, and when he talks, he sounds like he's from the Midwest.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, we're raising Midwest kids.
The Midwest Chicago
Yeah, it's so
accents,
funny.
baby.
Yeah.
Oh my
Midwest
gosh.
emo, the best kind of emo.
Yeah.
Hey man,
That's right.
we got nothing else to do but play hardcore music. It's
That's
fine.
right.
My gosh, dude, that's great. I didn't, and I was on staff at the chapel when, that season was, now you guys were interviewing and getting ready to come in, and I didn't know, all of that even to today. So that's crazy. Like I remember you guys talking through some health stuff, but I didn't know the full extent of it and how like much that would have wrecked all of you guys just as you're, getting ready to go into this next season. So
Yeah. And this season here, in Chicagoland has been super, for us personally, it's been very healing.
Yeah.
Being able to find some stability in our lives, especially for my children. Their dad was on tour like for a long time.
Yeah.
And so to be able to be home most of the time I feel like it's the greatest treasure.
Yeah.
I touring. Someone was asking me the other day, like, man, was it so rad going on tour? And I'm like, kind of.
Yeah.
Like, the first few tours were great. And then after that, it's like no sleep.
Yes.
Crappy food.
Yep. Yep.
It's just over and
your
over again.
$15 per diem per day.
That's
for
right.
McDonald's 3 times a day. Yeah.
right.
My gosh, that's wild, man. So, I was on staff at the chapel when you guys were coming in, and I feel like in that season, I say this all the time to churches, like especially multi-site churches. It's a pendulum swing every 2.5 to 3 years, basically going from centralized ministry to decentralized ministry.
Yep.
And for 4.5 months, you meet in the middle and you're like, this is amazing. And then it keeps swinging one way. And then it goes back and forth for decades is what I've seen, at least in my personal opinion.
Yep.
And I can't remember which direction of the pendulum we were on during that season, but I knew it was in one of those big like seasons of change where we had 8 campuses at the time across Chicagoland. Some of our ministry was centralized. I know production for me was centralized at the time, but I think worship was still kind of hodgepodge in some ways. And we had some other like kind of global worship pastors who were in there and had transitioned off and kind of were in the middle of all that as you guys were stepping in. So that was also like a super unique season, I think, for a ministry for us. And, to have you, come in and be just the chill dude that you are it was very refreshing because it wasn't, it wasn't always the case with every, person.
Every worship pastor before wasn't chill.
Oh my, yeah, not all of them. But it was such an interesting, season for us just as we were kind of stepping into this, and even guys like Corey and bringing some of the, whether it's theological beliefs or just other things from the Vineyard movement that had a lot of influence in our leadership at the church, and then taking, hey, what are the things that we feel like are the right things out of this kind of movement and bringing them to our context and our culture. And I feel like you were a large big piece in that movement for us, at least at the time. And I think, I can't remember how long we overlapped, but we definitely had a couple of Christmases and Easters in there together.
Yeah.
What was that like as you're stepping out of just a very different context, so much of it being in the professional music world with professional musicians, I imagine, to being in the church context with 8, 9 campuses, mostly volunteers, I would imagine, like just walk through that journey for you. Yeah.
Well, I think I kind of come from like a unique kind of situation because the church that I was always a part of when I was youth pastor, Vineyard Church, it was called Vancouver Vineyard Church in Washington State. It was a church of like 200 people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was the youth pastor / anything else that needed to be done.
Yeah.
And I was really good at leading worship. And so they were like, hey man, so I led worship all the time and led mostly with, when you have a smaller pool of people, that means, you don't have all of the grade A touring musicians, stuff like that. And so you're working with just, people that have music as a hobby. So I really got to cut my teeth in worship in that realm. And at the same time, I was also in a band who had really gifted musicians and then started touring, and it just got better and better and better and better. But I would say the biggest shock for me personally was coming from a church world of like 200 people. The Vineyard Boise I was at was around like 800, 900 people. And then all of a sudden I jump into this multi-site reality where there's just a lot of people
everywhere. Yep.
And a lot of opinions and a lot of different leaders thinking we should go this way or that way or whatever way.
Yep.
And I felt, just to be completely transparent, I felt the freedom from God that I had nothing to prove to anybody because I had literally just got my butt kicked.
Yeah.
And so I felt like it was the grace of God that I came from that season of just being, I was told during this time, during our health battle, I was told by a doctor that I was dying. He thought I was dying. He thought I had spinal meningitis and that I was like toast. Obviously I didn't, praise the Lord.
Wow.
So when you get to that kind of place, like there's just not a lot that you begin to go like, you know what, there's a lot of things I used to care about that I don't really care about as much anymore. And one of those things I really don't care about is pleasing people And that was really big for me as a people pleaser.
Yeah, man.
And so when I showed up, I really felt like I had the opportunity just to serve however I was needed. And as you remember, I remember somebody came up to me and going from, I just have to be honest, going from like touring in stadiums and like, you know, radio stations playing your music and like getting picked up, you know, churches playing your songs. And I remember one day somebody came up to me at chapel and was like, "Oh, you're the new floater."
That's a great way to say it. Look at that. That's
And
so
you know
funny.
what? I was so okay with it.
Yeah.
I was like, yep, I would pick a different word.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm the new floater. And so for about 2 years, that's what I did. I just went from different campuses.
Yeah.
Corey was so gracious and was like, "Jeremiah, we hired you because of who you are, not because of what you can do."
Yeah.
And he said, "Just impart culture. That's
Yeah.
all I want you to do." And so that's what I did for 2 years. And then eventually I became the young adult pastor there for a season. And then after 2 years, I became the worship pastor at our mothership campus. And then 6 months later, our senior pastor asked me to pretty much take over the worship for the entirety of all of the campuses.
Yeah.
So that was, you know, at every shift, it was learning a bunch of new stuff.
Yeah.
But I found in every one of those different positions that I had, as long as I was cultivating a culture of three values: community, humility, and intimacy. And those three values, that if we just sat in that for long enough, we'd start bearing some good fruit.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been seeing. I mean, we've been going after that for this is my 7th year at the chapel, and I'd say our worship culture is in the healthiest place it's ever been.
That's awesome.
Maybe talk more about that. Like, as you're stepping into such a diverse set of communities in all the different campuses that all have their own experience, their own sort of vibes and dynamics.
Yeah.
What was it like to just get into all those spaces, build those relationships? Like, how did you tackle that? Because you can't be in 9 places at once.
100%.
So what was that?
Yeah. So I decided, like, out of the gate, as soon as our senior pastor asked me to become kind of what we call, I'm the central worship pastor. I decided that if we're going to build something successful, we need to have very few demands on our worship pastors. Like, a lot of times a new guy will come over and it's like, "This is a new vision. This is what we're doing. And, you know, here are all the resources, but do it." And we have like this language at the chapel. It's like fixed, flexible, and free. I decided that if I wanted to gain trust in people, we're going to have not very many fixed things. Out of the gate, the only fixed thing we're going to have for at least the first couple of years is a weekly meeting together where we're not going to talk shop. We are going to worship, pray, and read together. And that's all we did. And we're like on our, I don't know how many books we've read. We've read so many books, but we've been diving in the books that sow into us our highest values, which are humility, community, and intimacy, and really digging into that together. And to this day, that's what we do. Once every Tuesday for 2 hours, all the worship pastors come, and it's sacred time for us. And there's like, and then we'll have some meetings that are more logistic. It's like, "Hey guys, this is going on. We need to do this and that." But that's sacred time for us, because that is what that has really been the catalyst for everything we're doing, that actually I feel like the Lord's really on.
Yeah.
Like our songwriting group, when we're recording, all these different things. The only reason why I feel like there's any life on it is because it's coming from an authentic place, from an authentic community. And our highest priority we're trying to make is each other, which is really beautiful. So it's a slow burn.
Yeah.
You know, the whole like saying, like, if you want to go somewhere fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. It's kind of like, you know, that Goonies mentality, you know? And I grew up in the Northwest, so
The Goonies.
it's all about the Goonies.
Yeah, man. Yeah, dude. That's so funny.
My kid loves the Goonies.
Yeah, bro.
See, my wife, years ago when we first got our Honda Pilot that has a DVD player in it.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Is it Goonies?
Yo,
Goonies.
well, here's what happened. She went at a garage sale, or maybe it was eBay or something. Maybe it was eBay. She bought like a random lot of kids' movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't know what comes in it.
Yeah.
So we just got a box of 40 DVDs.
Yeah.
that we just stuck in the pilot, and my daughter would just like play random
Yeah.
kids DVDs from
so
the last
funny.
20 years. You know, it's so funny. Anyway,
That's amazing.
the old animated Disney Atlantis movie was another
Yes.
classic that she's
Yeah.
a big
It's a
fan
good
of.
one,
Stuff
dude.
like that. But the Goonies is in there.
Oh man.
Wild times.
Yeah.
It's so funny about the Goonies is like, I think I don't remember when we watched that with my kids, but it was, within the last like couple years. And I was like, this is a lot more inappropriate than I remember as a child. There's a lot of cursing in here for
totally.
a PG movie.
Yeah, don't say that.
Oh yeah, it was 80s ratings, not 2000s
right.
ratings. It was a different scale back then.
80s PG is
You're
like,
like Indiana
PG-13.
Jones was rated PG. What?
Yeah, totally.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, that's cool, man. And I think like as you were talking about that, and even I think a lot of people in any organization, when you have a new person come in, they have this expectation, and they kind of put their guard up pretty quickly to go, hey, how quickly is this guy going to want to say everything you're doing is wrong and change it?
Yeah.
And I remember on the other end of the snake, at front of house going, oh, he's not doing that. Like he's not because I had seen at that point 3 central worship pastors come through, and have fizzled out after a couple of years, and went on to do other things. And so it was refreshing to see that you weren't like, oh, hey, everything needs to change and this is wrong. And that came slowly over time after relationships were built, and it was easier to go, yeah, of course, like I want to do this with you, so let's go there. And so I think that was a cool season for me on the other side of that to see. And now from afar, not being on staff since 2020, being able to see all the things that you guys have done since then. And I remember, I don't know when it was, but it was a couple years after I had left the chapel. I remember, I don't know if it was something you guys had posted or something like that, but I looked back and I was able to go like, man, those are all the things that I wanted to see happen when I was there. And, whether it happened when I was there or after the fact, I still think it's so cool that you guys are able to do some of that. And the worship culture that I think you guys have created is really awesome. There's a great group of people that lead, at those campuses and writing music and, all of that stuff, and just some passions that a lot of those worship pastors have, that I think you're able to foster. And now I get to, kind of watch from afar, which is fun.
Thanks, bro. Yeah, I would say you'd be surprised if you put people as the primary prize of your ministry, and if you let patience win the day, you're going to have a beautiful ministry experience. If like progress and ambition and trying to fulfill this void of significance in your heart, like only got one life to live, so
Preach it.
I better just, make the biggest impact or whatever. Even like with what seems to be pure intentions, which I feel like I've always tried my best before the Lord to have like unselfish ambitions. Even when you're building a ministry off of significance, wanting to leave a mark, you end up compromising a lot.
Isn't that such the message of the gospel though? It's like the last shall be first and the first shall be last, and like this upside down kingdom of how like it's foolishness. Right. It by all estimations, it doesn't make sense. Like that this would be the thing that has the longest lasting fruit. It's not pursuing some amazing goal. It's quiet community investment, care for those around you.
And it's unseen.
Unseen,
like, people don't know.
uncelebrated.
They don't. They don't see it.
Like of course. Like if you think about it, like of course that would be how it goes. Like that's just so in line with how Jesus operated, or the fruit of the gospel.
And I feel like we have an opportunity in our current cultural moment, especially in church, to really promote and celebrate that reality, because I think a lot of people are seeing just the damage that has been caused by things that started off maybe on the right track, but because people weren't the prize. I believe that our inheritance in the age to come, and I can unpack this theologically, but our inheritance in the age to come is Jesus and each other. And so the question then becomes, Scripture says that Jesus' inheritance is the nations, and that means it's his people. But Scripture also tells us that we're co-heirs with Christ. So then you have to come to the conclusion, well, then what's our inheritance? Well, if we get the same inheritance that Jesus gets, our inheritance is each other.
Yeah.
So the question then becomes is, how are you treating your inheritance? Are you investing in it, or are you taking withdrawals?
Yeah.
Right? And I want to make big investments.
Yeah.
And those investments are unseen and they're quiet.
Yeah.
They're not celebrated a lot, you know? And like, I'm also not posting about it on social media.
Yeah.
Like, hey, like yesterday I was meeting with this kid, you know, and it was a beautiful time. I won't go on everything, but it was such an amazing time. I was like, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I actually talked to him because he's this aspiring musician. And I said, what I'm not going to do right now, bro, is I'm not going to pull out my phone and be like, check out what we're doing right now. And I know I'm telling this story on a podcast, so that might church, but like, I'm trying to make a point.
Yeah.
The best of life is unseen.
Yeah.
You know, like those moments you're tucking your kids in the bed. You know, those moments that have pillow talk with your wife.
Yeah.
No one sees it. No one cares but you and the Lord. We need to have more of those moments in church.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we kind of feel like there's all this pressure that like everyone needs to know what, you know, the good that I'm doing. I need a platform, you know?
Yeah.
Well, it makes me think back to what you were saying earlier around like the dynamic that you experience sometimes where someone invites you to coffee because they want something out of it, right? It's like the same thing. It's like none of your relationships are just for the goodness and the inherent value of them in themselves.
Yes.
There becomes more attached to it. Like you mentioned the sort of challenge of, you know, how many times is that message of you only have one life to live, and so you should volunteer for me more, or you should show up to more of my events. And so it's like whether again it's like consciously aimed that way. It's like one of the maybe unintended things that happens is like those messages are self-serving and like propping up the organization or the leader. And it's leveraged that way as a tool versus actual investment in the person and care for the person and what might be flourishing for them. Sometimes it is doing more, sometimes it's not doing more.
I would argue that it actually shrinks the impact of the gospel, because then we have a message of the gospel that your mission in life is the main purpose of your life. And I've heard this a lot in churches. Is there's this huge like message around mission and, you know, serving. And right after it's like, so sign up for one of our volunteer opportunities. And listen, we need that, but volunteer opportunities, man, like that's something that should just be happening if you're in a church. This is my community. This is my family. Like when I'm at home, like my kids know they need to take out the garbage. Like when we're in church, we should know like there's a need. Okay, I need to serve it. The mission beyond the church is the biggest impact we have. And if we're not investing in people on a real selfless, in a real selfless way, those one-on-ones that matter just for you, then we shrink our impact. And you think about the impact that, you know, I don't know how many people go to the chapel now. There's thousands of people go to the chapel. If 50% of our people at the chapel would recognize that the greatest impact they could have are the very simple relational impacts that are all around them every single day. Like, I don't have to be the next Billy Graham. Can I invest my whole life into 3 people for the rest of their life, just for their sake? And if everyone did that, that's revival. That's revival reality. That's not filling stadiums and bringing out the best Christian speakers and bands and calling it revival when it's really just well, I think at best it's a renewal, and that's okay. You need those settings.
Or at worst, it's the entertainment you were talking about.
Exactly.
Earlier, you know?
Yeah, totally. But we need to get our priorities like back to where they're supposed to be. And Jesus stopped for the one. And I know it's super cliche, but the question we really have to ask ourselves, are we stopping for the one? I am a worship pastor. That word matters. Pastor matters. And when you're a pastor, there's a responsibility on my life to care for people.
Yeah.
And if I don't care for people, if I'm only caring for, like, I need you to play in my band so that I have a slot to fill, or I need you to become a better guitar player so I can have free labor when we do our next album so I don't have to contract somebody. Dude, you need to stop and check yourself right before you wreck yourself.
Yeah.
Like the famous prophet once said, Ice Cube. Because you will get wrecked. If you're living a life like that, you might bear things that seem like fruit, but it's not eternal fruit. It's fruit built off of ambition that dies. And man, I've seen train wrecks happen all over the place because of that.
Yeah.
So I'll get off my pedestal.
No. I want to put you on another one. You ready?
Sure.
You ready? You said something in some of the notes that you sent over earlier around we don't sacrifice people on the altar of excellence. Was your phrase?
Yes.
So, which I love that.
Yeah.
And I think that that word gets thrown around a lot as like the thing we pursue, right?
Yeah.
So maybe just preach at us a little bit. From
Sure.
That,
Oh man,
that line and tell us more.
This is one of my favorite things to talk about, and it is one of the most frustrating parts of my life.
Perfect.
And I always say my life, my job. So one of our values in the chapel culture is that we are unwilling to sacrifice people on the altar of excellence. However, we're also unwilling to sacrifice excellence on the altar of insecurity. And so you're talking about pendulums earlier, and what I've seen a lot in my church experience is there's these cultures that weaponize the term excellence. And what's happening is when you're trying to build like a community, let's say of volunteers. Some churches don't worry about this. They just hire out everybody. I have my own opinion about that.
Yeah.
But let's say you're just predominantly a volunteer culture, but you're a culture of excellence. The Bible talks about excellence, right? A lot of times what happens is you do auditions and people are in or out. Like you don't make the cut, see ya, come back when you're ready again. Maybe try again in 6 months. At the chapel, we look at every touching point with people as an opportunity for discipleship. We're not doing it perfectly. We're trying to get better at it, but that's where we're going. And so what we do when people come and they're like, hey, we want to be a part of your community, your worship community, or they'll use language like, I want to sing, or stuff like that.
Yep.
They don't know any better. But to join our community, we say, all right, we're gonna do an assessment. We call them assessments because auditions are in and out. Assessments are ready or not. Are you ready or are you not?
Yeah.
And if you're not ready, then it's my responsibility as a pastor to help you get ready. And so what do? I walk with you. I give you lessons. Whatever. But it's another touching point to help disciple somebody, or at the very least to lead them to a place to where it might be a better fit for them as far as like their gift mix.
Yeah.
Because there's times where we get people that, like, I want to be a singer, and they can't sing at all.
Yeah.
So like, what do you do with them? Like, you just put them on stage and mute their mics?
Yeah.
No, like that's dishonoring.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But we try our best. We do everything we can to help people grow at their gift, but not only their musical gift, but also it's an opportunity once again to disciple them spiritually. Where are you at in life?
Yeah.
Like, what's your story? How can we come alongside you? And we've seen a lot of fruit come of that in our community as well. I would say that is the slow and most time-consuming process you can. That's the way to do it if you want to take a lot of time. But I just go like, well, what else am I getting paid to do?
Yeah.
Like, am I getting paid to like just look out the window and dream of songs all day long and touring with Phil Wickham? You know what I mean? Like, that's like, what are you doing, pastor? Like, so pastor people. So the other part where we're unwilling to sacrifice excellence on the altar of insecurity comes with those honest conversations. When we assess somebody, we're like, hey, we don't think you're quite ready or quite ready yet, but here's some tools to do it. If some people, I haven't had a lot of these situations, but I could imagine there could be somebody who maybe they've been told their whole life that they're the best singer ever.
Yep.
You see it on the reality shows or whatever.
Yep, totally. American Idol, baby.
Exactly.
Yep.
So you have to have those hard conversations, what I call brave conversations. I'm still not from Bethel, but you have the courage to be honest, but you're honest with humility and kindness. Yeah. And then you give them resources to get better. And if they don't want it, then they don't want it. They usually just either leave offended and there's nothing you do about it. But we're going to try our best to utilize those opportunities to make discipleship connections, not fill slots in our weekend, needs or whatever. Is that helpful?
Yeah. I mean, that's something that I imagine as you developed that approach, led to a lot of interesting conversations with other staff and volunteer teams. And you also are stepping into an existing team 7 years ago when you come in, existing volunteers that are already there. And so it's not just your staff team you're leading, it's like the whole volunteer base that you're having to kind of bring along into this vision and direction. And so I'm sure you've had lots of fun chats over the years.
It's been great. Fortunately, I am truly surrounded by some of the most humble, kind-hearted people that love other people, and they're also good leaders.
Yeah.
And so I don't, obviously this is what's happening at the chapel is a story of a lot of wonderful people wanting to become more like Jesus, to help other people become more like Jesus. And so I can't take any of the credit for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is hard work. But listen, what's the other option?
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think the other option isn't worth the time.
Well, I imagine too, everything you do becomes easier over time, right? So the first brave conversations that you have to have maybe are a little more challenging. Yeah. But then as that becomes the culture of the house, it's this is normal. This is expected. This is just part of the muscles that we flex as we're building the team.
Yep.
And so that is more of a life-giving thing and less of a
100%.
Trepidation type thing.
Yeah, and we found too, what we'll do is when somebody makes a request like, hey, I'm interested in being a part of your team, we send them an email of what to expect.
Yeah.
And what they can expect is, hey, this isn't an audition, so let's take off the pressure.
Yep.
This is an assessment. Here's a song. We usually do whether it's vocally, we try to find one that has a wide range.
Yeah.
Or if it's musically, we try to find one that's medium difficulty for them to do. But we say right out of the gate, especially with our singers, I'll give you an example of what we say in our email to our singers. We say, we recognize, first and foremost, thank you for reaching out for this. This must have taken so much courage to do this. Thank you for doing it. We applaud you for that. Second, we want to recognize that singing is a very vulnerable thing. And it's different like all the other instruments because it's a part of your body.
Yeah.
And it's coming from you. And it can feel really personal. So we're aware of that. Just know that we care for you and we're going to care for you in this process. Third, here's the song that you're going to be singing. And this is where you're going to assess in. And we assess people into vocal 2, vocal 3, or vocal 4. And there's a process there. And I don't want to bore you with the details. But essentially, we try to find them a spot. Vocal 4 is, you're not quite ready yet. Here are a bunch of resources. Let's walk with you for a little bit. We're going to do this again. And it's like a 6-week minimum.
Yeah.
Come back in 6 weeks. If you're not ready, then we'll try to just find another place for you to better serve. Maybe this isn't your best contribution to the church right now, and that's okay. And we've had a lot of success as long as you're defining the expectations out of the gate and they're not finding out right then and there. It's a lot easier for people, and that's what we've been trying to do.
Well, I think it's easier too for the people that are doing those assessments too to be able to share that if they haven't flexed those muscles of clarity and expectation to somebody or having the hard conversation when they are a vocal 4. It gives them the tools and ways to do that in a way that's actually helpful and not just have them leaving be like, dude, they hated me and they don't want that. And to be honest, I didn't my vocals are terrible when I sing. So I go, you don't really think about that when you're trying out for playing guitar. It's you either are better, get better, or you don't. And it's so much of a skill versus something that is literally in your body and the way that God designed you in so many ways.
Yeah. And we have different ways we, make up for the lack of gifting that we have. If somebody's coming in and we're like, hey, listen, you at a base level can hash out chords. Let's get you up on a Sunday, but just know you're not going to be in the mix very loud.
Yeah.
Just be up front.
Yeah.
We're going to be using tracks.
Yeah.
For now. But what it's going to do is it's going to expose you to playing with a band.
Yes.
And there's this one student that we have, he started off just doing that. And now he is one of our best guitar players.
Yeah.
And he's never muted. I mean, kills
awesome.
it every single time. And so if you have those conversations up front, The worst thing I think you can do is not have those conversations. And listen, over the years, we haven't been perfect at this.
Yeah.
It's kind of been like building this plane while we're flying it. But I think what's helped navigate this all along is answering the question I believe that God's going to ask all of us when we stand before him. And that's this: did you care for my people? And so we go into everything we do going like, are people going to feel cared for through this process?
Yeah.
Because if they're not, if they feel like just a cog in a machine, or that we're just trying to fill slots, that's not going to bear good fruit. And I don't think God's going to honor that. And therefore, I have a theology that says, like, if we're loving people well, God wants to be in that culture.
Yeah.
So his presence, like, is attracted to a culture like that cares for his people. And his presence is the best thing that we have to offer the world.
Yeah.
So that's why we do that.
Yeah, good. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, man.
I'd be curious, so just as you think about the people listening today, so this is people that do worship, people that are involved in creative roles, pastors, production people. If you were going to leave them with an encouragement, like, what would you say, and kind of what comes to mind?
Yeah, if I was to leave anybody with any sort of encouragement, I'll give a couple of book references.
Do it.
Because I think those are
Well, it sounds like you've read a lot.
very practical.
Yeah, man.
So it's
Yeah.
good.
Yes. So anything by Andrew Murray, he's a 19th century theologian, but his book on humility, right now we're currently going through a book of his called Christ in the School of Prayer. There's an amazing artist, his name is Strawn Coleman. He wrote a book called Beholding and Thirsting. And I think those books, we've gone through that with our community, and those have really helped give us the framework of having, learning really how to continue to cultivate a community of health and wholeness that actually love each other and trust each other. It's not like, it's one of the most awkward things to go into a room full of worship pastors, and you're kind of like, do they like me?
Yeah.
Do they not like me? Like, can I say this? Are they going to be offended? Like, our group has grown to a place to where we can have those hard conversations with each other, and there's trust. And I can give directives, and they're like, we trust that.
Yeah.
Because they know the reason why I'm doing it isn't to build my own thing. It's to do something for us. So I would encourage that sort of approach. And then the other thing I would just encourage any sort of creative person, whether it's a worship pastor or production or anything like that. So I would just say, just truly and honestly take time to just be with the Lord. It sounds so cliche and so simple, but you see, half of Jesus's ministry was spent in the lonely places. And that's where he learned what the Father was doing. And he says, I only do what I see the Father doing. And there's a pressure, and I know it's hard in some church cultures where you're given a task and you have to execute a task. Yeah. There's part of that that's really beautiful, and it's what God, I think, desires. But there's a part that gets lost a lot of times in that, and that is the soul care of every person. And if you're not in a church culture where that is of high value, you have to make it for yourself. Yeah. And so I just encourage you just to make that a priority, to be with the Lord, spend time with him, spend time in his word, spend time in worship. Worship pastors, spend time in worship with the Lord. like grab your guitar and go be alone with the Lord. Don't just do it on the times you're on.
Yeah.
It's so draining. I have to tell myself that all the time. So there you go. I know that's not profound, but it's, I think, the most simple things.
Some of the most valuable things in life are not profound.
Yeah, 100%.
But they are the everyday in and out habits and routines and rituals that, seem little the first day, but you stack them for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Like, that's where you see the fruit.
Yeah.
Kind of like we were talking about earlier around relationships and care. And, imagine that.
Yeah.
It all connects.
For sure, man.
It's good. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. You have a story with a lot of challenges, but I think in that, so much wisdom to be gleaned, and it's cool to see the fruit that's coming from it in the season.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming out and chatting with us and hanging today, man.
100%.
It's always great to see you.
Likewise.
And I'm honored to have been able to do ministry with you for a short season. And I'm praying that God's favor continues to bless you and your family and everything you're doing at the church. And Yeah, I love that. It's
Thanks, bro.
fun seasons to think about and look forward to, just as we are all going throughout our own individual lives. So it's cool, man. Well, thanks again for those of you listening. Thanks for hanging with us, and we will see you guys all next week.